Hi YouTubers, Jim from Ohio here, and I wanted to provide a quick update as to how my DIY solar system is coming along, what I've been up to over the last few weeks, and a couple things that I've learned. Also a couple previews for some upcoming videos that I plan to put together. The first thing that I wanted to talk about today is something that I learned with this device right here. This is the GTIL2 inverter with the built-in limiter that I've spoken about in several of the other videos. And this is going to be something that a lot of people in the United States are going to be interested in knowing, because you're probably going to run into the same situation that I ran into with this particular device. Let's get started with that. Let me come and grab the camera. Okay, what I wanted to share with everybody was something with this cable right here. Now this is the limiter cable that it actually screws into the top port on this inverter, and what this cable does is you run it between the inverter to one of the main lugs coming into your circuit breaker panel, and what it does is it provides a readout to the voltmeter over on the device to let you know how many watts your house is using, and it also helps the limiter know what your house is using so that it knows where to cut off the power that's going into the device. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be using that to only provide power up to the amount of power that I'm using in the house, because I don't want to feed any energy back to the grid. So that's what this cable does, is helps with that. Now you've noticed I've cut the end off of it, and there's a reason for that, and this is something that's going to affect most people in the US. I'll try to get in close and show what I'm talking about. I know the lighting in my basement isn't that good, but this fat black cable right here, as well as this one on this side, those are the two main cables that come into the house. That's a 110 lug on each side of the panel. And so the idea is to place this clamp around that cable right there. Now this clamp may work fine for most of the world, but here in the US these cables are pretty thick, and chances are this is not going to be wide enough to clamp around that cable. I've seen some of those that are even bigger than mine here in the US. So that creates a little bit of a dilemma in that this clamp does have to totally surround that cable. If you don't get it totally clamped and closed, you're not going to get accurate readings, so it's not going to know where to shut off. And I tried getting this around the cable, and there's just no way. It's not going to happen at all. So I went back to the web and looked at the Facebook chat room or the page that Roger Naval runs, and he did recommend a replacement device which you can cut this clamp off and put it onto the end of the cable, and it should work just fine. Now here's the problem. Here's the device that he recommended, and here's what came with it. You can see the size difference. This is quite a large clamp, and I'm sure that I could get around that cable, but the only problem is there's no way to get the faceplate back onto my circuit breaker panel, because this thing is just too honking big. There's just no way to do it at all. So we've gone from one extreme to the other. I did order this device from the website that Roger recommended. You can see it here, what the specs are, as well as the company that you can order it from. Now, of course, it comes from China, and it did take well over a month to receive this clamp, and I found that it was just way too big. Just in case you run into this same issue that I ran into, so I went back onto the website, and I did find kind of a happy medium. And this is the one that I found. You can see the specs are very similar. The main thing you want to look for is the The 400 amps isn't going to matter because I only have two 100 amp legs coming into my panel, and this reads up to 400 amps. But that second number, the 0.1 amp, that's what you want to look for. That's the same reading that's on this device right here. It's also the same reading that's on this device. Now, I forget, I think that this clamp is a 25 millimeter clamp. I'm sorry, it's a 13 millimeter clamp. This one right here, the big one that Roger recommended, is a 60 millimeter clamp. I went with kind of a happy medium, and I went with the 40 millimeter clamp. Now, you do have to be careful when you order those and make sure you order the numbers right. Now, so this took a month for me to get. This one took another month to get, but wait, there's another story here. When I ordered this one, the company sent me the wrong one. They did send me the 40 millimeter model, but you see those numbers there do not match the numbers that I needed to have. They sent me a 150 amp 5 volt DC clamp, and it took a month to get. I had to get a hold of them, let them know that they sent the wrong one, and they did go ahead and get the right one to me. Go ahead and order one of those, and I'm sure that I can get this onto the end of this cable, and I'm pretty sure that I can get it into the circuit panel and get things all taken care of. So I'm going to go ahead and wire that up, and then I'll come back to the video once I've got it going, and I'll show you over here on this device where the readout that we're looking for will be. Okay, so we're back. I was able to get the clamp installed in the circuit breaker panel, and now you can see by the display right here that it is reading the amount of energy that's being used on that leg within the house. So the house on that 110 leg of the circuit panel is now using a little over 1,000 watts. That is what the inverter uses to know how much energy from solar to put back into the house. And it knows not to ever exceed, well, it's not going to go over 1,000 watts anyway because this is a 1,000 watt inverter, but it knows not to ever go over that amount, because if it does, it would then be feeding the grid. And I'm planning on having this set up so that it never will feed the grid. Now, you can have this device feed the grid if you would like to, but in my situation I don't want to do that. So that's what I've got going on here. One little addition to that, I am still working on getting the solar panels connected. I've started building the rack in the backyard, and that's going to be something that I'll show in another video. As far as the rest of the setup, a couple of things that I've done. I am able to charge the batteries now using the grid, and that'll switch over once the panels are up. And what I'm currently doing, since setting this up, we've had a couple power outages in our area, and because I didn't have everything configured and connected to anything, I really didn't have any way of utilizing any of the battery power, despite having all of this set up. So what I did is I did connect, since this is an off-grid, or an off-grid inverter, what I was able to do is go ahead and set up an additional outlet, and this outlet is tied directly to this inverter. So if we are to lose any power between now and when I get everything done, I do have this outlet that I can run cable anywhere around my home to run whatever I need to, whether it be lights or whether it be backup power for my sump pump, or anything that's going to run off a 110 that will not exceed 2,400 watts, which is the total output of this device. So that's one of the things that I've done. Now, the long-term plan, if you remember from one of my past videos, this is a generator transfer switch. and this is what I plan on hooking up. It'll be mounted on the wall right here. I'll be able to isolate some of the circuits in my circuit breaker panel and move them over to this grid tie, or to this generator transfer switch, and run those devices again off of this inverter, and not to exceed 2400 watts. The way that I plan on wiring this, I will have the ability to either run off of this inverter, or I do plan on also having an outlet on the back of my house, so that if we do lose power for a long period of time, I can hook up my generator and pretty much run almost my whole house. And the generator does output 220 volts, so I can run my well pump on that too. So installation of this is one of the things that I'm going to be doing next. And there are a lot of videos online that show exactly how to connect one of these, but I noticed there are a couple things that are never mentioned in those videos, and I do plan on putting together a video of what you need to do to prepare for installing this device. So watch for that video coming soon. Another video that I'm going to be doing, this is another device that I picked up. What this is, it's an MPPT controller. I've got three 315 watt panels that I'll be putting up that'll be dedicated to this, and what this does is it converts the energy from DC to AC, and it will feed this power into my hot water heater. So this is going to be kind of a hybrid hot water controller, and I'll talk a little bit about this more in an upcoming video dedicated specifically to this device. So that's about what I've got going on for now. If anybody has any questions, please post them below. In the meantime, I'll include the specs and the source for the clamp that I used, the larger clamp than what came with this. I'll include that down below in the description of this video too. Thanks for watching, and take care.